Welcome back to my channel. Right now, Maddie and I are just pulling into the driveway, and I can't stop thinking, why does Savannah Brown get treated like she's part of the furniture when she might actually be the only genuinely good soul in that whole family? In the Brown family's constant whirlwind of drama, there's always someone who seems to slip through the cracks. And it's not because Savannah isn't valuable, it's because she's not loud. Janelle and Cody's daughter has perfected the art of disappearing in plain sight. Not by choice, of course. It's just the reality of being part of a family where everyone else wants the spotlight. In a recent episode, Savannah finally speaks up when Maddie is about to give birth. It's a rare moment. She's barely on camera this season. She offers to drive Maddie to the hospital, and what happens? Maddie cuts her off. Mom's driving me. And with real grace, Savannah just says, I'll do whatever you need me to. Then, nothing. Silence. No recognition. From Maddie, Janelle, or the peanut gallery hanging out in the room. Sure, it might be edited for TV, but it still perfectly illustrates Savannah's place in the Brown universe. She's there. She's kind. And she barely gets noticed. This isn't new. Savannah has never quite fit the sibling mold. Even in earlier seasons, when the kids actually got more screen time, she was too old to play with the little ones, too young to hang with the teens, always stuck in the middle, present but invisible. And when life's big moments came around, it didn't get any better. Take Maddie's wedding, for example. It was a huge family affair, full of bridesmaids, flower girls, and extended family from Robyn's side. Savannah? No role. Not even a tiny one. Maybe she was too old for petals, too young for a bridesmaid dress, but you'd think Maddie, of all people, would want her only full sister included. You'd be wrong. This isn't just a one-off, it's a pattern. Maddie, who clearly sees herself as the center of her siblings' universe, has always left Savannah out. And Savannah? She's never bitter, never hostile. She's genuinely warm, always ready to help, quietly present in a way that a louder, flashier sibling would get praised for. What happened here? A sweet, quiet young woman got lost in the noise of a family obsessed with attention. Maddie, it seems, inherited Cody's need to be noticed. Savannah, the listener, the helper, the one who asked for nothing in return, remains the odd one out. Savannah's greatest strength is also her biggest challenge, her quiet nature. In the Brown family, if you're not loud, you're basically invisible. Sweetness doesn't get airtime, and it certainly doesn't make the family mythology. Maybe being overlooked by this chaos is exactly what will set her free one day. Now, let's shift gears, because the latest twist in this never-ending Brown saga has everyone pointing fingers at Janelle. The story makes it seem like she betrayed Mary. But did she? Not even close. She was trying to protect her, though that doesn't fit the narrative the show wants you to see. Somehow, the simple act of pushing for a fair and speedy sale of Coyote Pass is twisted into a betrayal. Here's what really happened. Janelle wanted the land deal to move forward without forcing Mary to sign a confidentiality agreement. Shocking, right? A woman advocating for fairness and transparency in a property sale. What nerve? For years, Janelle has been one of the few family members who actually looked out for Mary's financial security. She openly affirmed Mary's fair share of assets as a legal wife and even encouraged her to get a lawyer. That's support, not disloyalty. It's exactly what it looks like when you're acting with integrity rather than hiding behind firewood and manipulation. But cue the dramatic music and crafty editing. The show makes it seem like Janelle's move was some Machiavellian plot. Cody, ever the dramatic narrator, clutches his pearls and gasps, betrayal, as if he's concerned about fairness rather than the deal he and Robyn were quietly working behind the scenes. Then, for comic relief, or horror, Cody has his fake phone meltdown, screaming, "I'm going to incriminate myself," And Janelle, calm as ever, replies, "You could." That's the kind of confidence only a lawyer by your side can give. Let's not forget, this sudden legal panic isn't new. Cody has a history of trying to manipulate family finances. Lawyers weren't just prudent, they were necessary. And then there's the land split, which makes about as much sense as a chocolate teapot. Cody, in a masterclass of faux generosity, proposed splitting the lots fairly. 2 smaller lots for each woman and 2 larger lots. But the lot Cody and Robyn preferred, worth over $100,000 more, because it still had trees. Suddenly, landscaping equals profit. Meanwhile, Mary and Janelle, united as ever, suggested putting all names on all lots for fairness. Cody and Robyn didn't compromise. They threatened Mary with a deal contingent on a non-disclosure agreement. Mary said no. It's not totally clear whether Janelle was even asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but the fact that she hasn't mentioned it might hint that she wasn't. Maybe the family knew she wouldn't go along with it. And what about pushing the sale through on her own? Funny thought, but if Janelle had tried it, the legal chaos would have been monumental. Cody may act like the tough guy, but he's not reckless enough to start a lawsuit so transparently for his own gain that it would destroy any remaining shred of his reputation. Even TLC's finest editor couldn't turn that into a redemption story. So, no, Janelle isn't the bad guy. She's the voice of reason nobody wants to hear in a room full of people who think gaslighting is a legitimate negotiation tactic. The real problem isn't that she betrayed anyone, it's that she didn't. And speaking of blame, everyone loves pointing fingers at Cody for the family's chaos. But what if Robyn was the real spark all along? Oh, Robyn, the queen of selective memory and accidental irony. Not long ago, she said, parents don't understand the effect they have on their kids with what they say. Now, that might sound shocking for anyone, but especially for a woman whose kids have literally acted out her complaints in real life. Take Aurora, for instance, ever the loyal echo, repeating Robyn's stories almost word for word. Little Ari, on the other hand, confidently announced she doesn't like Christine and suggested her dad go on more dates. Not exactly spontaneous, these were carefully planted lines from a family built on whispered grudges and carefully crafted narratives. Robyn's on-camera confessions are less about self-reflection and more about auditioning for the role of perpetual victim. Her sob story, about wanting a better relationship with her biological father, would feel sincere if she showed the same empathy toward her own kids, whose connections with their biological fathers were not only strained, but ceremoniously severed. On camera, no less. Remember that reveal? Telling her kids, with microphones rolling, that their father had signed them away to Cody. Stunning restraint. Truly. And the performative worry when her older kids said they felt rejected? Robyn's first thought wasn't to comfort them. It was about her own feelings. How could they feel rejected when that's how I feel? In Robyn's world, everyone else's pain is just background music to her own drama. She constantly talks as if the original 13 kids, the OG 13, don't know what's happening, as if they're naive or blind. But they're not. The youngest of that group is now a grown woman, and the others have long since outgrown the lies their parents spun. They've endured the chaos, the favoritism, the financial stress, especially as Robyn's family grew and her debt piled up, and they've done it with far more maturity than most adults in the room. And let's not forget the national TV narrative where Robyn painted her ex-husband as abusive, absent, and obsessed with her purity. Harsh accusations, heavy implications, all delivered with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they won't be challenged. It seems Robyn's ultimate goal is for all the other wives to have raised their kids to be loyal to her and Cody no matter what. If only the other parents had played along, maybe this carefully constructed house of cards wouldn't be crumbling. But unfortunately for Robyn, reality doesn't bend to her will. And unlike her own kids, the rest of the family clearly didn't get the memo that blind loyalty was part of the deal. Maddie and her husband Caleb even named their daughter after Cody. Evie Cody. That's not a casual nod. That's a heartfelt tribute. Yet, now? They don't even tell him when they're expecting. That's not distance. It's erasure. Long before monogamy, or more accurately, the pretend plural marriage, collapsed in front of a national audience, Kody Brown was the kind of dad Maddie and Caleb respected enough to honor. They trusted him enough to use his name for their child. So, how did the man who once twirled his daughter on the dance floor at her wedding become so distant that she couldn't even tell him about another baby? The breakdown of Kody's relationship with Maddie and her family is essentially a lesson in how not to be a good father. This wasn't about politics or ideals. It was about behavior, or more accurately, a lack of care. You don't name your child after someone who's just there. But by the time Evie was born, Kody had already mentally moved into Robyn's living room. He was focused on building Robyn the house of her dreams while his granddaughter was facing major surgery. Ironically, Robyn later claimed she didn't even want the house in the first place. On camera, Kody never said anything hurtful about Evie's health, but there's little evidence he helped behind the scenes either. What did make the edit was how he seemed to pull away from his other kids, especially the girls. They scrambled for scraps of attention, trying everything from politeness to symbolic gestures, like Maddie naming her daughter after him, to get him to notice them. But neither strategy worked. That's the tricky thing with narcissistic parents. They crave the appearance of love, but rarely give it in return. They love the idea of loving, not the act of actually loving. Over time, emotional distance teaches you clarity, and Maddie seems to have found it. When Kody called her stirring the pot in a talking head segment, a classic deflection, she gave one of the most responsible responses a parent could. She didn't want her kids to become attached to a man who clearly wasn't going to be there for them. Kody claimed he was too busy for his grandkids, but not too busy to fly to Morocco for a TV special. As long as the money went through Robyn's house. He's made his choice. A carefully curated kingdom of loyalty and love, made up only of Robyn and her children. The OG3, their kids, and even the grandkids have all been cut out of the fantasy. That may feel easy for him, but for the people who once danced with him at their weddings, named their kids after him, and looked up to him as a father, it's devastating. Maddie's breakup with Kody isn't just sad, it's a lesson. It shows how quickly admiration can turn into avoidance when love meets conditional loyalty and repeated indifference. The relationship didn't collapse in one dramatic moment. It crumbled over time, under the weight of favoritism, emotional distance, and the exhausting effort of maintaining a connection with someone whose affection only shows up when it's convenient. They didn't just sell Coyote Pass. They sold what little credibility this show had left. And let's be honest, the sale itself wasn't really about real estate. It was more like a farewell party for a show that hasn't quite realized it's over. Because, let's face it, no serious property deal involves gathering 4 adults on a dirt lot for some ceremonial standoff. Real closings happen in a title office. Or, believe it or not, at home using DocuSign. But where's the drama in that? Where's the awkward symbolism? This is Sister Wives. Everything has to feel fake, forced, and slightly absurd. Let's talk numbers. The sale went for $1.5 million, split 4 ways, which comes to $375,000 each. That's hardly enough cash to justify the overblown drama around it. But then there's Robyn, who didn't help pay for Coyote Pass at all, yet walked away with a full quarter. Fairness in this world? Apparently, it means getting something for nothing. Robyn's financial maneuvering is almost impressive, even if it makes your blood boil. She used her Las Vegas windfall to buy a McMansion, comfortably living there now, with a little help from Janelle's money. If you factor in her share of the Coyote Pass sale, she's come out on top, giving the least while taking the most. In her version of family, equity seems more like a prop than a principle. Meanwhile, the tension between Mary and Janelle is both sad and frustrating. If either could set aside old grudges, they might recognize how similarly they've been treated, and how unfair this whole arrangement really is. Their strained civility was painfully obvious at the Coyote Pass gathering, especially when Robyn complained that Mary wouldn't even look at her. Mary's stare was so intense, you'd think she could see through stone. The whole thing, the show, the property, the fake drama, feels forced and pointless. The symbolic gestures, the staged conflicts, the obvious unfairness, it's all just a tired attempt at entertainment. Cody and Robyn spend most of their screen time talking about how much they like each other and giving dull speeches. Emotional stakes? Gone. The story? Stalled. Coyote Pass isn't a place to share legacy anymore. It's a monument to wasted potential. Or, as I like to call it, Coyote Past. And here's what viewers don't get to see about Mary Brown's NDA. The latest episode carefully crafted the illusion of openness, with staged conversations, heavily edited tension, and little truth. For example, the producers made a big deal about asking Mary about the first NDA. First implies there was a second, or maybe more. When a family specializes in hiding inconvenient truths, sequels are usually involved. It's becoming clear Mary probably did sign eventually. And why wouldn't she? She likely had to in order to get her fair share of the land she helped invest in. The so-called delays? Probably negotiations over legal language, not just rudeness. She only talked to lawyers, which strengthens that theory. This wasn't a family fight. It was a legal war. People blamed Mary for holding up the sale, but Robyn dragged her feet for months. By January, Cody, Janelle, and Mary had signed. But Robyn? Not until March. Was she using her signature to try to silence Mary? History suggests she's done this before, control dressed up as cooperation. Then there's the not-so-small matter of Robyn's tense conversation with Mary from the past. You can bet it wasn't a warm reunion. It was probably one last-ditch attempt to control Mary's emotions, wrapped up in Robyn's usual fake sincerity. Same old tricks, Cody promising fairness, vaguely calling for unity, and pushing everyone to keep up appearances. But Mary? She wasn't having it. Thanks to a solid lawyer, and, even more importantly, her own money, she finally had the tools and confidence to stand up for herself. That's the real shift in power. After years of emotional manipulation and carefully planned isolation, Mary was legally and financially protected. Unlike Janelle, who was stuck in a financial bind, or Robyn, who is Cody's chief enabler, Mary could fight. And she knew how to do it. This pattern isn't new. Cody has long used NDAs like duct tape, keeping anyone who might challenge his carefully curated story quiet. Pedan, Cody's son, even revealed on a podcast that his dad asked his own kids to sign NDAs. Nothing says fatherly love quite like a legally binding gag order. And Robyn's quiet ex? He adds to the impression that this isn't a one-time trick. It's a family strategy for controlling the narrative. Meanwhile, the show keeps serving up fake scenes, staged emotional confrontations, and empty platitudes. Real drama? Real stakes? Off camera. Instead, we get talking heads and manufactured reunions. Cody and Robyn even tweak their names and personalities like it's a PR campaign. Robyn is shy now, and they need more space for Truly. Next, maybe Cody will be marketed as a feminist. Let's not forget, this is a man who convinced an entire country he could manage 3 working marriages and navigate polygamy flawlessly. In reality, he's a narcissist, obsessed with control. His carefully built house of cards is collapsing, just not fast enough for the cameras to catch it. And Mary? She's far from done. A woman with legal knowledge, emotional insight, and financial resources doesn't just disappear. She holds cards in her hand, cards that, if played correctly, could dismantle Cody's empire of revisionists. There may not be a tell-all book yet, but mark my words, it's coming. and it won't be pretty. For now, we're stuck watching a sanitized rerun of A Family in Freefall, waiting for the curtain to finally drop and the truth, enda or not, to crash through. This wasn't a family meeting. It was a job. In the latest chapter of the Browns' ongoing drama, Cody and Robyn showed up almost an hour late to meet Mary and Janelle at the ever-important Coyote Pass. You might expect an apology or even a hint of self-awareness, but no. The royal couple arrived with zero responsibility, fully expecting Mary and Janelle to leap out of their cars and greet them with reverence. All of this, of course, while standing in freezing weather, waiting like loyal footmen in a blizzard. Of course, when Mary and Janelle didn't immediately bow and kiss the ring, the cold shoulder suddenly became rude. It's almost funny, if it didn't make me so frustrated every time. But here's the thing, why even meet at Coyote Pass in the first place? If this was really about signing land documents, any sane adult would have gone to a title company, or even handled it from home. Not out, in the middle of nowhere, in freezing weather. The truth? It was never about logistics. It was all about appearances. Reality TV knows how to make fake tension feel real, packaging every interaction to maximize emotion and minimize credibility. And yes, they were well paid for this performance, reportedly $30,000 per person. Standing in the cold for drama? Not suffering, it's acting. No sympathy needed. But the deeper issue is the rot at the heart of every interaction in this family. The passive-aggressive stalemate. No one answers the phone. No one is first to help. Everyone waits for someone else to cave, beg, or lose. It's emotional chicken, and nobody wins. Yet everyone thinks they're right. Ironically, the real power move would have been to simply get out of the car and say hello. Not as a sign of weakness, but as a refusal to play the small, meaningless games. This show doesn't reward that kind of strength. Here, power is measured by how quietly you suffer, how well you weaponize your feelings, and how much drama you can extract before the next confession. In the end, that scene wasn't about land, apologies, or moving on. It was about power. And, as always, the show matters more than the truth. Speaking of truths no one wants to say, Kody Brown's love life. Turns out, it wasn't just bad wives or changing values that brought the plural marriage empire down. It was hormones, ego, and a lack of sexual desire. For years, Cody publicly criticized each of his first 3 wives. Christine? Never really attractive, apparently. Janelle? Disloyal for prioritizing her kids and making independent choices, like picking a trailer over his non-existent leadership. Mary? He can't give her what she wants, which really just means he didn't care and wasn't emotionally available. Now, the truth is out. Cody's testosterone levels reportedly dropped to 0, making marital duties, well, impossible. The emotional distance, the blaming, the conflicts, it wasn't the cause of the problems, it was the cover story. He wasn't avoiding his wives because they were too much. He was avoiding them because he couldn't perform. Except for Robyn, of course, his chosen one, apparently worth every blue pill and supplement he could get his hands on. Mr. Saturday Night could still excite, but only for the people he wanted. Meanwhile, Robyn spun a story about the other wives being cold and rejecting him. The truth? Cody had already left the rotation. The myth of the neglected husband? Just another way to dodge responsibility. The carefully orchestrated closeness between Cody and Robyn says a lot. While he was with the other wives, Robyn's perfectly timed texts, FaceTime calls, and constant martyrdom check-ins were subtle. But not so subtle. Reminders that she was always there. Her clever control over his time, which she called devotion, kept him emotionally tethered to her, and none of the other wives dared interrupt when he was with her. Robyn wasn't just another wife. She was the gatekeeper. She controlled everyone's feelings and effectively redefined Sister Wife into a solo act with a supporting cast. Her public insistence that she wanted the full plural experience, sisterhood, community, a shared husband, wasn't reflected in reality. Being alone, jealous, and possessive are not exactly the hallmarks of a harmonious polygamous family. Robyn didn't want a spiritual connection or a shared life. She wanted Cody, and the TLC spotlight that came with him. Cody's failures only underscore this. Take the infamous cutting down a tree saga. Whether it really happened or not, it's a perfect example of his so-called leadership. For years, he blamed everything but himself. The weather, the tools, the terrain. Yet now, the logs are on the ground. The truth is out. The myth of the noble polygamous husband? Completely fallen apart. It was built on a lie. And the carefully staged stories, secret NDAs, and forced family dramas can't cover it up any longer. Subscribe for more, because the story of this family and the truths behind the cameras is far from finished.